everybody. My name is Gerardo Betancourt, and I'm being in charge of Chicos Net. Their name used to be Mano en Mano. Now it's been for 8 years. When we started this in 2008, 2009 with Barry Adam back in the day, and we started that adventure. Somebody could help me with. Thank you. So the objective today for me is to talk to you about Latino gay men and sexual health, and why it's important, and why is the Latinos or Spanish-speaking individuals, particularly gay men, are at higher risk to HIV. So we need to understand where these men are coming from. So they are coming from Latin America, from Brazil, from Mexico, from Argentina, from Spain. And there is this misunderstanding these days that because legal sex marriage is being approved in Mexico or in Spain, people say, well, there is no more homophobia, there is no more reason for them to come here, come back to Puerto Vallarta, have a happy life, and I don't know what you're doing here. That's what people think in general. And the truth is not. The truth is policies and laws, once they are changed, in Latin America and in many countries, the same process, it takes years before they actually reach to population, and it takes years before actually change the life of somebody. So homophobia is still an issue if you are born in Jalisco or in Tequila. Actually, Tequila, I didn't know this, but I learned, because Tequila is a town that just produced tequila. So I was like, you can actually be born in Tequila. I didn't know that. And then have a very unhappy life because you are gay. So this is important to pay attention, because the three major issues we see is lack of human rights in South America, Latin America, and sexual migration, which Barry and Christian had a wonderful paper published based on the study we conducted in Quentam in 2010, and the challenges of a new geographic location. What happens when these guys arrive here? So this is the issues I mentioned. We can move to the next one. This is my favorite one. So what happens to these people who are gay in Latin America? For many years, being gay is being feel and seen as lack of masculinity. It's like you are like a man, but an incomplete man. So I remember, and that's why I have this, because I have the opportunity to go to Australia, and I saw men play in this game, like it's rugby. But they're literally like they have like 20 channels on TV, and 20 of them are devoted for rugby. So it's a huge thing. And I was watching it, I was like thinking, oh my God, this looks like Pride. This looks like the parties I get invited at the Black Eagle. But everybody's clapping and everybody's like devoting their attention. So, that's a different vision of masculinity. Then I have the opportunity to go to Turkey, and they have this sport. And I was like, this is a sport, and people pay money, and then families get there, and they eat sandwiches while everybody, like other guy, is getting his hands into the pants of the other guy. I was like, that's interesting, because I remember friends who got suspended for playing like this in school. This is a sport. So there you go. And my favorite one is this one, because my father still today, he's a coach of gymnastics, Olympic gymnastics for women. So when he was working, he would take me and my brother, and he said, well, men or boys are training there. Why you don't try? And I saw what he was doing. So women's in floor, and it's the floor exercise, they have music. So they dance to a song and they do stuff. And I was like, guys, they don't do anything. Everything is just like do push-ups and then splits, but there is no music. So it's like, Dad, how come women have music and we don't? And he got so pissed, and he said, don't challenge things. The things are the way they are. I never asked that question. But there was something terminally wrong about music and aesthetic form. So I still thinking that Barry will write that one day, and I want to read it. I solved that question. Anyways, and I have the charro, the traditional image of what masculinity or macho is. This is from the 40s. If you know who he is, he's Pedro Infante. But he represents to this day this notion of what masculinity is from that perspective in Latin America and Mexico particularly. So when these guys arrive here, what do we see? We see the sexual migration is on them. They have to deal with race, because now they are Latinos. Gender, because they have to define the sexual orientation. And I love this notion that Logie is here, and I love this paper when she says gender And sexual orientation should be considered a social determinant of health because it's true. It changes what happens to you if you have a different sexual orientation. So they have discrimination, immigration status, language barriers, and the whole impact of the social determinants of health. You know what I'm saying. There is nothing new here. Here are some numbers. We can skip it. This one too. I love this one too. This is the classic MSM idea. I found this painting in Mexico, in Acapulco, and it represents two guys who are very macho, very manly, and they're having drinks, probably tequila, mezcal, I don't know what people drink these days, but they are getting so drunk, and all of a sudden, it's okay to touch each other and to kiss and to go back and forth. So this defines MSM, and I think it's a good painting for people who are new to our field. I know you know what MSM is, and it's good to remember that 70 cases of HIV in Latinos, according to Katie 2013, are reporting based on MSM. So we have to keep an eye on that. This is the book. I have the opportunity to write a chapter. It's called La Pasión, and La Pasión, Sexual Desires, Pleasures, and Passions. And what I like about this as a theoretical framework is the opportunity to think about sexuality as a form, as a lens that organizes the life of gay men. Like we need to learn and to understand that sexuality is how it feels good, what do I do in bed, the romance I want to have with someone, going out with that guy who I think he's so cute. Those things actually organize us, regulate us. Those things are important. We need to start thinking about our interventions, about the work we do from sexualities. We need to start to be less scared of talking about sex because these guys are not. We need to pay attention to that. At a certain point, I have this linear model because I know some people love to see linear lines, and I do love it too. So you see the culture, you see sexual knowledge, attitudes, and beliefs, which is sexual health, knowledge. La Pasión, which is the theoretical framework I propose, and I try to explain behaviors. But I was lucky, and eventually I got with another model. Can we go though? Skip this one a little bit, I come back to that one. The model I was thinking, I was trying to define, and I know Trevor and people who like psychology, they love to think, and I like to think about how do people make decisions? Do they make decisions based on sexual health? Do they make decisions based in La Pasión? What do we have in our mind when we're making a sexual health decision? I'm thinking I'm gonna wake up next to this person. I'm thinking I need to get married to this person for documents. I'm thinking I don't have a roof where to live. What do they exactly means for us when we have sex? What are the emotional and cultural components that are involved? If we can go to the next one. And here, I love this one too. Sorry, I love many of my slides, and that's why I like this work. Because then I have a classic telenovela, Veronica Castro, which is so famous, 1979. I was like 6. It was like the soap opera at night, but my mother's like, it's too late, and my father said it was like, it's for girls. And anyways, I remember that, is that my time? I remember that as a vivid emotion of like, what happens in that soap opera that everybody's so, watching it. And what happens is basically drama, emotions, and people and guys, and this girl who's poor, and then she meets this guy. She happens to be white and brown eyes, and she's like from rural Mexico, and she moved to this rich house, and the guy is like super tall, blue eyes. Something happened, and they get in love, and all the things that happen to them. And I was thinking, for so many years, Latino Americans, we have been exposed to these narratives, to this literature, to this television, to this culture, and pay attention. Walt Disney does not the same to us. So we have many other ways to think about sexuality and romance. We are deemed to think and to make sense in the way the storytelling has been told us how to do it. I think that's important to consider when we are running interventions and when we talk to our clients, because this is the thing, particularly for gay men, that we didn't have role models to think about emotions, romance with gay men. The next one. This is the model of Chicos Net. We have 4 interventions, 4 aspects that we want to do. The first one is to reduce isolation because people are very, very lonely here. They come to another country, they don't know anyone. We want to increase their HIV knowledge and STIs knowledge because we know that they will make better decisions if they know how to prevent HIV. They want to develop critical awareness so they can be thinking possibly about to be immigrants and gay men and don't feel guilty about it. And finally, to develop some resilience that I have been reading some research about it, and it's fantastic. The things that we can develop with our communities. Can we go to the next one? So Logie is here. I give her the full credit to her because I saw her model about Black women and HIV and stigma. And when I saw it, I was like, I like this model because she goes into the micro, meso, macro level. She has a stigma, I think you have something else here, but I borrow and I said, you know what, I want to study, I want to think how these sexual health practices are happening, what is impacting them. So I had La Pasión, sexual desires, pleasures, and passions, the social characteristics of being Latino, and the health literacy, because this is what we want to understand. We want to know how, if we impact in this different, or we try to model pathways of health, we can actually change or intervene in sexual health practices. Is that my time? Okay. Thank you so much.